What's up everybody? Welcome to the video. Today we're going to talk about how to ferment our own L. reuteri, Lactobacillus reuteri yogurt. Personally I think it comes out tasting more like sour cream, but this is going to be our first batch, so what we're going to need is a few ingredients. Now this comes from the book Super Gut, written by Dr. Davis. He has done extensive research on the benefits of Lactobacillus reuteri and is the one that came up with this method of fermenting the supplements to get a super powerful dosage of the Lactobacillus reuteri strain to heal our gut and get all the benefits like reducing depression and anxiety and all sorts of skin conditions. And so essentially what they found is we used to have this in our GI tract. It actually colonizes the small intestine, which is what's somewhat unique compared to a lot of probiotics, but we get a lot of benefits from that. It helps with the production of oxytocin. So I'm going to show you how to get started here. Now this is our first batch, so we have a couple ingredients we need. We have these L. reuteri tablets, which there are also some, you can also find powdered form, or there's some capsules, so you can just open the capsules. Whatever type you have is fine. This is what Dr. Davis uses in his recipe in the book, so that's what we're going to use here. We've got some inulin powder. This is just prebiotic fiber to get the fermentation process started. And then of course we're going to need our organic half and half. Now it doesn't matter what brand. Half and half, we need 1 quart, so I won't need all of this. I've got a mixing bowl with a 1 quart measurement that I can reference. We're going to need a whisk, a tablespoon measure for measuring our inulin powder, and a rolling pin and Ziploc bag. This is for crushing up the tablets into a powder to get our fermentation started. So I'm going to set this book aside so we don't get it dirty. And then of course you need a fermenter that you can set the temperature. Now L. reuteri, unlike most of your typical yogurts, actually grows at a lower temperature. So we're going to want to ferment at 99 degrees rather than other yogurts that are usually 108 to even up to like 112 maybe. And potentially higher. It just depends on what strain of bacteria you're using to do your fermentation. So with L. reuteri, we want 99, 100 degrees. I run it at 99. And the other difference is that we want to ferment for 36 hours, where typical yogurt is only fermented for 4 to 6. So this machine is great for that. You can also use, I think there's some Instapot, like crock pots that have a yogurt setting that people use. Many devices out there. I really like this one because I can set the temperature, set the time, and forget about it. It's super easy. So first up, I'm going to crush these tablets here. We need 10 of these BioGaia gastrus tablets. They have the 2 strains of Lactobacillus reuteri that Dr. Davis studied, and so I want to use the same thing, make sure we get the same results. So 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. All right, 10 tablets. I'm just going to put these in the Ziploc bag here. 2, 4, 6. Oh. 2, 4, 6, 8, 9. Good thing I double checked. And 10. Okay, 10 tablets in the bag. Close that back up. Okay. And seal that shut. And all I'm going to do is gently, well, maybe not so gently. Break it up, and then we can a nice fine powder that we can mix in. We want a nice fine powder that we can mix in with our half and half and our inulin, make a little slurry, and then we'll mix the rest of our half and half in and get the fermentation started. So there. Rolling pin does a nice job making sure you don't have any big chunks left. There we go. Now we're getting there. Alrighty. So, looks like I poked a little hole in the bag, but as you can see, nice fine powder here. So, I'm just going to pour this right into our bowl. Make sure we get all of that out of our bag here. Now, next thing I'm going to do, let's set this out of our way, is get our inulin powder. We're going to need 2 tablespoons of the inulin powder. And this is just to feed the bacteria to really get that fermentation process kicked off and running, so we get a nice good fermentation of our cream. Now I'm just going to pour a small amount of half and half, as you can see, and mix this up. You should get a nice thick, I mean, we're not really concerned with it being thick per se, but the reason to do just a little bit at first is to ensure that we get it mixed up and dissolved into the half and half real well, because I have made the mistake before where I crushed up the tablets and I mixed them in a container and it was too small to hold the entire quart of half and half, so I just sort of scooped it over to the other side, and the side that I had mixed originally fermented great. The side that I had scooped out, apparently I didn't get enough mixed up. What I scooped off the top did not ferment as well. It came out kind of loose and wasn't that great. So I now make sure I mix in a bowl that gives me room to make sure everything dissolves nicely. So you can see it's starting to, but you can kind of see it on the whisk still sticking to the ends, and you can feel it almost like sugar stuck to the bottom of the bowl. So I'm going to make sure we get that all dissolved into our little half and half of cream slurry. Once it's smooth, you don't feel anything sticking to the bottom of the bowl anymore. Then we'll go ahead and mix in the rest of our half and half. So I need to keep an eye on, since I'm working out of a half gallon, I only want to go up to this 1 quart mark, which hopefully you can see on the bowl here. I have a mark inside that I'm going to be looking at as I fill up our half and half here. Alright. So we've got that. I'll put this back in the refrigerator. And go ahead and give that a good stir. Make sure we get that slurry well mixed into the rest of our half and half here. Okay. And I'm going to get our bowls for the fermenter here. Let's set this, open this up. Now I already have some water in here, and I'll show you what we do with the water in a minute. Basically, the fermenter is just a slow cooker water bath, and the purpose of the water is that you fill it up above the level of the yogurt that you're making or whatever you're fermenting, so that it can hold that at a nice even temperature, so you get a good even fermentation. Keep that bacteria just at the temperature that it likes to grow at. Okay, so I've got a couple of fermentation bowls and my lids. Now these bowls here came with this fermenter. They fit, it's a set. You can also order it so that you get 8 small dishes if you want to do different styles at the same time, provided they ferment at the same temperature anyway. So, alright, so we've got this all mixed up. Now we're just going to pour this and try and get them relatively even amounts in both bowls, hopefully. Alright, looks pretty good. And then, even though it's pretty liquidy, I like to just scrape the bowl down just to make sure we get all our good microbes down into our fermentation here. Alright, now we'll just simply place our lids on. I like to burp the air out of there, get a nice good seal on them. Okay. And all we're going to do is set them into our fermenter now. Okay. And I'm going to add just a touch more water. It's not quite up above the yogurt, so I'm going to add just enough that the level of water is above, or at least equal to, I like to be just slightly above the level of the cream in the bowl. So another reason why it's good to split, even though these bowl dishes are technically a quart, they're full to the brim if you put a quart to them, and it would be difficult to fill the fermenter up that high. So by splitting it into 2 bowls, you can easily get your water bath up above the cream you're fermenting. And then all you do, put our yogurts in. We're going to start. 108 degrees is typical for yogurt. We're going to go down to 99 degrees. And then 8 hours is typical for regular yogurt. We're going to go up to 36. And start. So that's it. You just let this do its thing. At the end of the 36 hours, it'll shut itself off. Now you want to make sure that, keep track of time so that when this finishes at the end of that 36 hours, you want to pull these out and put them into the refrigerator to chill them and let the yogurt really set up good. And 2, you don't want to leave it beyond that. You could get over fermentation if it sits out too long at that temperature. So chilling it, putting it in the refrigerator and chilling it is a good way to stabilize it. I like to leave it at least 4 to 6 hours, but ideally overnight before digging into it. It just seems to come out better that way. It will be nice and thick and creamy. And now this first batch with the tablets, don't be alarmed. It may have a little bit of an off aroma, mainly I think just from crushing these tablets. But what I'm going to show you next is how to save the whey. As you start eating it, pour off and save the whey that separates. So you have a clear liquid that separates on a yogurt, and so you have the curds is your cream, the whey is that liquid, and it's full of the microbes you need. You can use that instead of the tablets to start your next batch, and when you do, that next batch will taste and smell much better. So don't be alarmed if you feel like it has a little bit of an off smell. Everything's kosher, it just gets a little bit from those tablets. The next batch will be much better. It's still perfectly safe to eat. Enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next segment where we make our second batch, and it's going to save you money because you don't have to keep buying tablets. We do still use the inulin powder, but like I say, it improves the taste, saves you money, and that's it. I'll see you on the next section. Stick around. For the end, I've got a special recipe also. We're going to make a Reuteri ranch dressing that is super healthy, tons of fresh herbs. We substitute our Reuteri cream that we make for the sour cream in a delicious ranch recipe dressing, and I think your family will love it. It's a good way to get this healthy stuff in them, and they don't even know they're eating healthy. They just think they're eating the stuff they always loved, and we're making them healthy while we're at it. Thanks for watching. Stick around. I'll see you in the next section. All right, so on our first batch of Reuteri yogurt, we crushed up our probiotic tablets and mixed with our cream and our inulin, our prebiotic powder. As you're eating your yogurt or sour cream, however you want to phrase it, I think it's a little more like sour cream. What I do is save the whey. So this is a little milky. It'll actually be very clear. And then I save just a little bit of the cream, the fermented cream from the previous batch. So this is the combination of the whey from both. So I had 2 bowls. As I scooped out, this one's just a clean bowl now. As I scoop out, I just take the cream, don't mix in the whey. So the whey is the clear liquid that separates as you scoop your yogurt out, and I just pour that off. So the first one, I eat around it, and then when we move to the next bowl, as I scoop it out, I pour that whey into this bowl and save it. So at the end here, we've finished all our yogurt. It's time to make another batch. What I'm gonna do is scrape this out as our starter instead of using the tablets. And when you do that, one, you save money, time, effort. You're not having to crush these tablets all the time. There's plenty of cultures in here to get your Reuteri fermenting nicely. We're still going to use a quart of half and half, organic half and half, and we're still going to use 2 tablespoons of the inulin powder to really kick off that fermentation. So all I'm going to do, I'm going to set this aside here, and I'm going to scrape out this bowl, which was our previous batch, into my mixing bowl here, because I learned on the first batch that these bowls that come with this fermenter are exactly 1 quart, and it's just too much to put 1 quart in 1 bowl. So I'm going to mix it in a mixing bowl and then pour into, as you can see, there's a little bit of the cream left, mostly liquid. You can do it just with the liquid. I just like to have a little bit of the cream in my starter, but just the liquid will do just fine. There's plenty of cultures in that. So I'm going to take as much of that as I can out of there. What I'm going to do is get 2 tablespoons of our inulin powder. Okay. And mix that up to get that nice thick slurry like we did the first go around. Get that all dissolved in there. It's actually fairly easy. You can see some of it kind of sticking to the whisk, so make sure you get that mixed up good. Close that up, set it aside. So, open this half and half, mix it with the slurry good. And, I mean, first follow-up batches, this is it. You just mix in the whey, mix in the cream, a little bit of inulin powder. And you might even be able to get away with doing it without the inulin if you're using a starter like this, but just figure it's a good way to make sure the fermentation kicks off nicely. Get our slurry mixed into our cream good. And I think what I'll do, actually I'll just pour this out here. Give it a good stir, make sure we want that bacteria well mixed into our cream. First batch I made the mistake of I filled all this up and I realized it was too small, too full. And so I ladled some of the cream into the other dish and it didn't ferment as well because I didn't get it mixed up good. So just note to self, make sure you get things mixed up well. That's empty, we're good to go. So I'm just gonna pour these and try and get them relatively even. Very good. Ooh, wild spatula. Okay. Last of our cream out here. Make sure we get all our goodness in there. Okay. Now, go ahead and put lids on. I like to kind of burp the air out of there. So they'll be kind of bubbled up and just crack it and push on that center. And then what we're gonna do, set these right into the fermenter here. Bring them more front and center. Okay. And then I wanna fill the water level so that it covers the cream, just like before. Now, you don't have to, being that there is lids, but I'm using distilled water. Just figure that way there's no vapors of anything that I don't want in there. Because we all know our tap water is not the greatest. And that's it. So, very simple. Save your whey, mix it in instead of the tablets, and you're off. And so you can just continue making batch after batch after batch. There's batch number 2. You'll find that this tastes and smells a lot better than the first batch that was made with the tablets. And stick around for when this is finished fermenting. I got one more special recipe for you. Probiotic Reuteri ranch. We've got everything laid out here, our list of ingredients and tools. I'll post in the description a written version of this, as well as there'll be a blog article to go with it. Fresh herbs, we all know, loaded with health benefits. I've got fresh basil, rosemary, oregano, flat leaf parsley. Be sure to get flat leaf, not curly. Dill, and chives. And now if you like a little stronger onion flavor, you could substitute green onion for the chives to get a little more potent onion flavor, and then fresh garlic. We've got a bowl we're going to mix it up in. Right here I have a bowl of the Lactobacillus reuteri fermented yogurt, which I personally think tastes more like sour cream than yogurt. So it makes a great substitute for the sour cream that you might see in typical ranch dressing recipes. I've got some homemade olive oil mayonnaise here and some buttermilk. Oh, we're missing a lemon. Let's get a lemon. And one fresh lemon. All right, so we're gonna juice those up, chop up our herbs, mix it all up, and have a delicious and super nutritious probiotic ranch dressing that everyone will love. So let's get right into it. First up, I want to get our creams mixed up. So I'm going to take a half cup of, now this is a batch that just recently finished. You can see, set up nicely, nice solid. I'm going to take a half a cup of the Reuteri yogurt or sour cream, as me. Alright, make sure we get that nice and full. And into our mixing bowl here. Alright, so half cup of our Reuteri cream. I pre-measured a half cup of the homemade olive oil mayo. You could of course substitute store-bought mayo, and as well with the, you could substitute sour cream here if you wanted. Ideally, if you're going to do store-bought sour cream, try and get a cultured probiotic sour cream. Scoop this in as well. And then we're also going to want a half cup of our buttermilk. Okay, so let's get that in there. Oh yeah, good stuff. Okay, so I'm just gonna scrape this out a little bit. And I'm going to take, I'm done with this for the time being. Get our whisk in there. We can mix this up just to see that we've got good consistency. As you can see, buttermilk thins it out a little bit, but it's a nice thick creamy ranch. If you want it a little bit looser, you can add a little bit more buttermilk, although keep in mind we're also going to put some lemon juice here, which will also thin it down a touch. There we go. A little bit pourable. Okay, now we want some garlic, just one clove of garlic here. Okay, just gonna pop that out of there. That's all I need of that. And that one even came clean, but if you want a little trick for making it easier to peel, you can take your knife, lay it on the cutting board flat, careful not to have your hand near the blade, and just give it a little crack. You can hear the sound of it cracking there, which will make it release this tough outer shell just a bit easier and pop right out of there. Okay? Now I'm going to cut that end off of there, and you could dice this up. You could buy pre-minced garlic. I like to use a press because I feel it releases more of the flavor, squeezes more of the oils out. So I'm just going to press one clove, and this is a rather large clove. On a small batch like this, you might want to pick a little smaller clove. I like a lot of garlic, so I'm going to go ahead and with this one. Smash that in there. And that is plenty. That's probably roughly a teaspoon of garlic. I'm going to do, pop that down in there and give it one more squeeze. See, you get just a little bit more and you can really kind of see the juices coming out of it. Give us that nice garlic flavor. So that's that. Our lemon, I'm going to take and roll it with some pressure so you're softening it up. So it will juice better. It will make it easier when you go to squeeze the juice out of it here. So I'm just going to slice that in half. And with a batch this size, I probably really only need to do 1/2, but I'm going to go ahead and juice both halves. And then we'll measure out a little bit so you can have a good reference. Alright. Okay, now, yeah, that's plenty. Depending on your taste, you could put anywhere from between 1 and 3 teaspoons of lemon juice. So there's 1. So we already have a little bit of that tangy tartness from the buttermilk. This aside. Okay, now chopping the herbs. Fairly self-explanatory. Keep them small, ideally, because you want them in your dressing. I've already cleaned them and just have some leaves to chop up here. Okay, so we'll do that next. Okay, so now our herbs, we're going to chop them up next. I'm going to start with the chives here. We want about a tablespoon of chive. I'm just going to mince that up nice and fine. Now if you substitute green onion here, I would recommend just using the green portion, not the lower white bulb of the onion, although all of it would be just fine, particularly if you like that little stronger onion flavor. Stragglers here I need to get. Oh, it just doesn't want to stay under the knife. Alright, so there we go. That's probably about a tablespoon. We'll go ahead and measure it since we're making a video here, huh? And yeah, just about right. So I'm going to put all that in there. It's close enough for government work. And I like onions, so it's not going to hurt to have a little bit extra. Okay. Now, the rest of the herbs, we want to do about a teaspoon each. And with the rosemary, I'm going to show you a little trick that you can do with the rosemary and basil, because if you've cut fresh rosemary before, you know, when you start chopping, it has a tendency to fly all over the room. I got a little trick for that. So let's chop up the others first. Get our dill here. I'm just going to double it up, go a little quicker. I think that's a little bit more than a teaspoon, but pretty close. Again, close enough, a little heaping. I like my herbs, so we're going to keep on rolling with that. Next is our flat leaf parsley. You notice I like to kind of roll up the leafy stuff. Just helps to hold on to it and get it a little finer. And then we're going to omit The stems, we just want the leafy goodness in this case. And that's fine enough. Again, we can measure here. This is probably going to be a bit more. 1. So that's almost 2. I'm still going to use it because I like it. The herbs are very much adjust to taste. A teaspoon of each is really just a guideline. Obviously, make it the way you like it. Oregano here, I want to make sure and get the stems out for sure. This oregano I've got is fairly tender, but some can be very woody. So I want to make sure and get all those stems out. What you can do is grab it at the top and just gently pull down the stem, and you'll get all those leaves free. So just a little easy method to get that off. Now this one, oregano can be quite potent. I would not go more than the teaspoon on oregano. The parsley, not really that big of a deal, but this could get a little overwhelming. And I'm going to mix this up nice and fine. Make sure we don't have any big chunks that the kids might find spicy. And I suppose I should measure. So after years of being a chef, I really don't generally measure, but for the purpose of the video, I figure I should. So there we go, that's a nice teaspoon of that. Now again with the rosemary, what we want to do, get my knife out of the way, get all the woody stems out. I've already kind of picked through these, so you don't have to sit here watching me pluck rosemary. So this is mostly just leaves already. A couple little bits that looks like I missed, but all tender tops, okay? And what I'm going to do is take some of this basil, just the leaves, and I'm going to lay out the leaves, kind of stack them up, and I'll show you a couple things you can do with that. So for one, you tuck in your smaller leaves, but you've got this little pocket in your basil, stuff it with your rosemary, and then take and roll your basil up. And as you chop, it helps to contain the rosemary so it's not going flying all over the room on you. Just makes it easy to hold, and there you go, good to go. Chop through that basil so we don't have any long stringy bits. And then I'm just going to go ahead and cut the rest of our basil here. This one, again, rosemary, I would do a solid teaspoon. We've got a little basil mixed in there, so we'll call it 2 and call it good enough. You can use your own judgment as to how much of that you want. Rosemary is another one that can get a little potent for the kiddos, so do with it what you will, but 1 to 2 teaspoons on that should be just fine. Now again, even though it's just the basil, I'm going to go ahead and stack them all up. Largest to smallest, give them a little twist, and being just a basil leaf, this would be a chiffonade, and I'll show you in a second here after we get through them. If you want a nice garnish on the top, what it does, get a good piece that demonstrates it. When it's rolled tight, it makes kind of a zigzag. Let's kind of see on that one. I don't know if the camera can pick that up. That little zigzag shape. We're just going to dice it up. But it can be fun for a garnish if you're sprinkling a little basil on the top of your dish or something. It's a nice way to cut. Basil's another one I'm going to go ahead and go a little heavy-handed on. The recipe would call for about a teaspoon, but I would say 1 to 2 teaspoons of basil should be just fine. Alright, looks like we're making ranch. We got sprinkles of herbs everywhere. we should be right on track. All right, so let's move this up here and just mix in our herbs. Oh, we did not do salt and pepper yet. So I'm just going to grind, you know, maybe if you want to measure this, I would say, depends on the spice level you like. I like things peppery, but about a 1/4 teaspoon would be plenty. And then the same with salt. I'm just going to grind some pink Himalayan salt in here. And we can always adjust to taste. So go light to begin with, and then taste your ranch and add more if you need it. So there we have it. Nice, thick, herb-filled, delicious ranch. So that's it. That's all it takes. I've got a mason jar here that I am going to spatula this into to store it in the fridge. Everything's fresh, so you can count on about a week. You know, use your best judgment depending on the ingredients you put in, how fresh everything is. Obviously, food does go bad, but it's fairly stable. Now, everything should be refrigerated though, unlike the ranch dressing off the shelf that has been packaged for being shelf stable without refrigeration, even though you still need to refrigerate that after opening it. This should always be refrigerated. And that's it. There we have it. Let's get ourselves some celery and taste it. All right. Here we go. Nice little taste testers. Oh yeah. That's delicious. I will say a few of those I went heavy on the herbs, and that's probably as much as you want to go. It's tastes great, but I wouldn't go any more than I did in this video. But of course, adjust to your taste. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.